for those who cannot participate. And like I said, we're just really glad to have everybody tonight, especially on a beautiful night. So again, here's our agenda. We're going to start with Patty Heeman. So if everybody's ready, we're going to welcome Patty to share some information about FAFSA and financial aid.
Hopefully you can all see my screen, correct?
Yes.
Okay, awesome, welcome. I also have Darcy Drake-Tapp with me tonight. She is the one that if you visited at the high school, she's the one that is spending the time at the high school in order to help those students. And I know don't have plans to visit. She's also the one who sent out the sheet with the tutorial and all the information on that. So, and again, we'll ask questions at the end, or if you want to chat them, we certainly will answer the questions as you go. All right. Okay, why is this important to you if you're an assurance student and you're thinking, why do I have to file financial aid? Because it is a requirement of the assurance that you have to file financial aid in order to receive all of your funds. So because it is a gap scholarship, the assurance only funds students over and above what their scholarship or what their grants will. So until a student has filed financial aid and we know what those grants are going to be, we cannot fully fund a student for the assurance scholarship. So even though you have the assurance scholarship, you still must apply for financial aid.
And to try and help you along with this a little bit, we have created a tutorial that is on our website. So when you go to the Riverland website, when you click on the tuition aid across the top of the website, then you'll see a green button that you can click on for applying for FAFSA. There you will find tutorials for creating an FSA ID, which you will want for both you and your student, and then also step-by-step on completing the FAFSA.
First step for everybody is that FSA ID. Your FSA ID is your electronic signature for all FSA sites, including the FAFSA. The student and at least one parent of a dependent, for the dependent students, have to have that FSA ID. And the nice thing with the FSA ID, and the one thing we want to let you know, the FSA ID for the parents, if it's their FSA ID. If they are a parent of multiple children, it is the same FSA ID. So the parents only need to create one FSA ID. One of the nice things the Department of Education has done is they have consolidated all of the websites that they used to have. If any of you parents have been students, you know that you went to one location to look at your loan debt, another location to file your aid, different websites for everything. They have now brought it all together to the studentaid.ed.gov. The FAFSA form, the FAFSA.gov will still work, but it automatically redirects you to that studentaid.gov. So if you as a parent are going to that FAFSA.gov website and you notice that you've been redirected to the studentaid.ed.gov, you are in fact on the correct website. The application is all done completely online. There is a paper version that you can have, but you do have to request that. You can download it from the FAFSA website, or you can call and request a paper copy. We do not keep paper copies at the college. We recommend that you apply online. It is secure, it is safe, and you don't have to worry about having your information stolen. FAFSA and taxes. I highlighted here in yellow. This is for if all of our parents attending are seniors. They will most likely be starting classes August 2021. So it tells what FAFSA filing year, what your tax is, and the date that you can file. If one of you has a student who perhaps is attending summer semester, then you would need to do the 2020-2021 FAFSA and then use the 2018 taxes.
So this is a screenshot of the of the first page you're really going to come into when you start your FAFSA. You'll put after you get your ID and so forth entered. You'll notice across the top of the screen here, there's different sections, starting with the student demographics. There you're going to put in the information about the student. Then you go on to select what colleges you want to send your FAFSA to, and you can send it up to 10 colleges at a time. The dependency status is a series of questions to determine whether the student is an independent student or a dependent student. And we will go into that in a little bit more detail on the next slide for what is a dependent and what's an independent student. Then we go on to the parent demographics, parent financials, student financials,
Okay, so we're not
and
behind
then
it.
you'll go to the sign and submit. And it's very important that after you sign, the student signs and the parent signs, that you click on the submit.
I think Darcy's on mute.
Okay, that's what I wondered. Could anybody else not hear her? So
I'm sorry, it's been shutting me on and off, so I'm sorry. So you might have missed a bunch of that.
that's what I was thinking. Okay, is it my internet? What's happening here? Thank you for breaking in. Darcy, you cut off. So she went across the top section here.
Okay.
And then the other nice thing that we like to point out is that in this green square, you see the application was successfully saved. This isn't anything that you have to do automatically as you click next. Every time you go between screens, it automatically saves this for you so you can go back in and find the information. The other thing we want to point out on these screens is the circle with the question mark in them.
Yes.
If you click on those, you will get additional information. If you don't know how to answer the questions, these questions that you see here are obviously very easy. But when you get to the tax screens, if you have questions about what are they talking about, where do I find that? If you click on the question mark here, it will give you additional information and actually show you a screenshot.
And also to point out too, when you create the FSA ID and you're completing the FAFSA, be sure to use the full first name. Don't use nicknames, so use Matthew instead of Matt. You want your name to match what it is on your Social Security card.
Then what do you have to do as a student to not list parents' information? Most of our students who are single, under the age of 24, unmarried, have to use parents' information. So who doesn't have to use parents' information? You have to be 24 years old to not use parent information. Any graduate or professional students, students who are married. If you have legal dependents who receive more than half of their support from the student during the school year, they don't have to use parents' information. And simply having a child does not make a student independent. Anybody who's on active duty military, if the student was an orphan or ward of the court, or if the student is homeless. If none of these situations meet the student, they do have to provide parents' information. It doesn't matter if the student was claimed on parents' tax returns or not, or where the student lives. If the student doesn't meet these criteria, they have to use parents' information. Then the data retrieval tool, this is something that the IRS and the Department of Education a few years ago finally got things to work out so you can automatically transfer your tax information directly from your tax return to your FAFSA. Who can't use this? If you're married and you filed a separate return, if you filed it recently, if your marital status has changed since you filed your taxes, and since we're using the 2019 tax year, if in fact you still owe taxes from the 2019 tax year, you will not be able to use this.
When it comes to the parent financial information, the student financial information, there's assets that do have to be included and some that do not. So any, checking and savings or cash, you would include investment farms. These would be if you owned the farmland and you rented it out. If you actually own and operate the farm yourself, you do not have to include that in the asset information. When you do your look at investments, CDs, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, you include them if they are not a retirement account. So if you have a Roth IRA, traditional IRA, 401k, those do not get included. Also, again, you do not have to include the home you live in, but if you do own additional property, say you own a house that you rent out, that would have to be included in the asset. A trust fund if it is in your name, and then if you have a 529 plan for your student, you are going to list that in the name of the owner. So most of the time, the parent is the owner of the 529 plan, and the student is the beneficiary. So you'd list that under the parent's assets. And there is a larger allowance on the parent's assets than there are on the student's assets when it comes to being included into the methodology to calculate that expected family contribution. And then also, if you have the small businesses, if it's family owned and under 100 employees, you don't have to include it. So once you get the FAFSA completed, you get it signed and submitted, you get that confirmation, you're going to get an email. The student, I should say, is going to get an email confirming that. And then in a few days, you will receive an email with the student aid report notification where you can log back in and take a look at your student aid report. If you do not put an email in on the FAFSA, it's going to go through the mail for you. So then at the same time that the student receives the student aid report, any of the colleges listed on the FAFSA are also going to receive a copy of that student aid report. So you will receive one student aid report. However, it will, if you send it to 3 different colleges, you could get some type of notification from each one of those colleges if they are in need of more information from you.
And that additional information, the Department of Education randomly chooses a FAFSA for verification. If the Department of Ed chooses a student for verification, we as a college are required to confirm the information entered on the FAFSA. It's not that we don't believe you or that the Department of Ed doesn't believe you. It is simply a random chance as to whether you're chosen or not. And then there's just a list of items here. The nice thing is if you, you know how I talked about the data retrieval tool and transferring your taxes directly from the IRS to the FAFSA? If you do that, you do not have to confirm income information. If you don't do that transfer, then you'll have to provide copies of taxes. The award notification, once you have submitted all the verification, you should get an award notification from each college that you've sent your FAFSA information to. That award notification will let you know what aid you are eligible for. It'll be a combination, most likely, of federal, state, and local loans will be listed on there. The one thing, aid always varies from college to college, except for the Pell Grant is always the same, regardless of the cost, the size, or type of college. Be sure when you're looking at your award letter, you confirm your credit levels. So does your award letter reflect full-time? Does it reflect 12 credits or 15 credits? Be sure you know what aid level you're looking at. And then at the end, compare the net costs after grants and scholarships apply to what the college tuition and fees are. The other thing I recommend on the award notifications is find out, are those awards for the whole time that the student is attending, or are they a first year award that they won't appear again on maybe the second, third, or fourth award letter? Federal grants, this is kind of a summary of what you might see on that award letter. The federal money, the Pell Grant money, is free money that comes from the federal government to those that are eligible. The federal SEOG is the federal supplemental grant. This goes to the highest need students. And the Pell Grant, whoever applies for the FAFSA and eligible receives the Pell Grant. The supplemental grant, each college receives a limited amount of money in the supplemental grant. So if you know that you have low income, we strongly recommend you apply early so you would be eligible for that supplemental grant. The Teach Grant is a grant specifically for students going into education. Next, we have the state grants. The Minnesota State Grant, if you're a student going to a Minnesota college, student could be eligible for the Minnesota State Grant, depending on income levels. There's an Indian Scholarship, a post-secondary child care grant for those students who have children and are going to college. It helps pay for those daycare costs. And the Minnesota GI Bill, if there is anyone who is maybe doing the National Guard, the GI Bill is available for those students. And scholarships, this is in general, scholarships can be received from the college. You generally have to do an additional application process for those. The institutional scholarships or grants are what makes those expensive private colleges affordable. They can be need-based, they can be merit-based. You might have to do a separate application. If they're talent-based, they might be for a sports team, they might be musical, a whole array of things, but be sure that you look into those scholarships. Federal and state work study is a job that students do on campus. The nice thing about work study is that it allows the student to earn some money without that money counting against them the following year when they actually file their financial aid. So money earned by the student as work study does not count as income on the FAFSA.
And then you have the different types of federal student loans available to you. So the loans that the student would be able to take out in their name, those are subsidized and unsubsidized loans. So the main difference between the subsidized and unsubsidized is, one, the subsidized you have to demonstrate need for, and unsubsidized you do not need to demonstrate the need. And then subsidized is the loan that the Department of Ed is covering the interest on that while you are in school. You do not start accruing interest on that until you are done with school. And the unsubsidized begins accruing interest as soon as that loan is fully dispersed. You do have to be enrolled in at least 6 credits, which is considered half-time, in order to take out the loans. There's no credit check involved in it, and there's a 6-month grace period from the time you finish your program or you're no longer enrolled at least half-time. So if you were to only be 5 credits for a term, you are working on that grace period for it to go into repayment. But you can, if you were to increase your credits in the following term, you could also have that put back into in-school deferment. Then a loan available to the parents of a student is the Parent Plus loan. It is also part of the federal direct loan program that the parent is the borrower. The money is for the student's education. There is a credit check involved in that the parent must pass. If the parent does not pass that credit check, their student is eligible for additional unsubsidized loan funds. After that, there are alternative loans that are available. These are generally from private lenders. The state of the Minnesota Office of Higher Education does offer a loan that the student is the borrower, and they are required to have a cosigner. So a lot of times parents will cosign on that loan for their student. Otherwise, you probably have heard some of the big ones like Sally Mae that will do the private loans. You just have to be very careful when you look at them to know what the interest rate is, the different fees, terms, and so forth. Some of these student loans are also include a grace period on that. So preferably you're going to want to go through your grants, scholarships, and federal direct loan programs before you have to tap into the alternative loan market. So, and for each year, each new academic year, you do have to complete a new FAFSA. So that's just a matter of logging it in and starting that application process again. After the first year, it will offer you a renewal option. So the second year you're doing it, it's going to pre-fill a little bit more information for you. And then again, it will send it to the schools that you choose. You do have to choose the schools each year on that. So Patty, was there anything else you wanted to mention?
I don't think so. I think we did a good job.
Okay.
And again, if you have questions, we will answer the questions at the end. Next up, we have Caitlin. She is the advisor for the Austin Assurance Program. Caitlin, take it away.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and shut off my camera to hopefully help with some internet issues I'm having, but I just wanted to introduce myself virtually. I'm here to talk about the Hormel Foundation Austin Assurance Scholarship. I am the academic advisor for the scholarship, as Patty mentioned. So just some details about the scholarship quick before we talk about how you can qualify. The scholarship does pay for up to 65 college credits towards a program at Riverland. There are a few programs to get, certain two-year degrees that require more credits than that. And we can work through that together during your time at Riverland. This will pay for 100% of your tuition and fees at Riverland that are not covered by other federal or Minnesota state grants or other scholarship funds. Patty mentioned this, that it's gap funding. So it will be important for you to fill out the FAFSA application in order to receive funds with the Austin Assurance Scholarship. Additionally, this scholarship is prorated. So if your student maybe didn't attend Austin High for all 4 years, let's say they attended 3 years, they would get up to 75% of those tuition and fees covered after the other federal or Minnesota state grants or other scholarship funds. So I know that can be kind of confusing, and we are happy to help talk that out with you in your specific situation. Students that receive this scholarship also have a one-time stipend of up to $1,000 for books and things like tools if you're in a certain program that maybe requires tools. Once students have used that $1,000, it is gone, and they will need to pay out of pocket for things like books and tools. Students will just charge their textbooks for their classes to our Riverland bookstore and get reimbursed. Same with tools. You'll actually go and buy tools if they're required for your program yourself and get reimbursed up to $1,000 as well. This scholarship is available for up to 5 years after you graduate from high school, but it is very important that students that want to use this scholarship, they apply during their senior year, because that is a requirement. You have to apply during your senior year to qualify for this. Next, Patty. Thank you. Okay, so how you can qualify for this: students must be a graduate of Austin Public Schools or Pacelli, but you do have to also live inside the district. So there may be some students who have open enrolled, just live right outside the district. Unfortunately, it is a requirement that you live inside the Austin Public Schools enrollment district in order to qualify. There is also a requirement that students must have 50 documented volunteer hours in our community. These can count as early as soon as you're done with 8th grade, you can start counting volunteer hours. And if you have not documented them yet, that is totally fine. You can go back and get that taken care of. I'm happy to help you with this process. And so is Amy Mayers, who you'll hear from soon. We will be getting information to seniors soon here just about my role in the high school and what that will look like in these unusual times. So 50 volunteer hours, those need to be documented in the Get Connected website that you all the students should have access to. There's also an academic requirement for the scholarship. As you can see, there's a wide variety of ways that you can academically qualify. One of the ways is having at least a 2.5 GPA, cumulative GPA throughout your high school. It could also be a 2.5 GPA for just junior and then senior year of high school as well. An ACT, composite ACT score of 18 or higher will get you to qualify, as well as a 31 on an ASVAB assessment. If a student has completed the Be Your Best College Prep Academy at Riverland, maybe summers before now or even this next coming summer, if they complete that academy, that's another way to qualify academically. And the last way would be if students are in that top 75% of their class and they meet another criteria, that is another way to qualify. So those criteria would include being a first-generation college student, meaning neither of the parents in the home have a 4-year college degree. Another way would be being a low-income student, and one example there listed there is just a family that may qualify for free or reduced lunch. And then the last component could be if you self-identify as a member of a racial or ethnic minority. As I mentioned, you'll get more information here soon in the next few weeks as far as how to apply and when to apply for the Austin Assurance Scholarship. As I mentioned, you do need to apply junior, senior year, so make sure to get that taken care of when you get that information. And then students, after they apply, we run data as far as qualifying kind of after first semester. So students will start getting letters and emails regarding if they qualify or not, and kind of next steps come about March or so. It's important to remember that if students are wanting to be announced as receiving the scholarship at the Academy, you'll need to have the volunteer hours and the application and fully qualify. You'll need to have all those things done by the last Friday in April of your senior year. There's some additional steps that you'll need to follow in order to be ready to attend Riverland and use the scholarship. You can find those steps on the austinassurance.org website listed there, and you'll get that website and those steps sent out to you as well. That website has a lot of information, and it's as up to date as we can keep it. We are always making sure it's up to date. So there's also my contact information there, so feel free to reach out, take a picture, and reach out to me if you have any questions in the meantime. But like I said, we will be getting information out to parents and students regarding the scholarship and how to apply very soon. So any questions right now?
I think we will be spending some time working with the seniors directly too. Isn't that correct, Lynn? When we get a lot of times to the government classes and so forth?
Yes, that is correct. We're going to look at meeting with students at the end of October.
Okay, yep. Okay, so that's one of the things, just to make sure that we will give those students that opportunity within the school day as well. Okay, so I think moving on, we're going to have Kevin Salkus from the Walla Education Partnership join us and present on the Walla Scholarship.
All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Kevin Salkus, and I'm with the Walla Education Partners Scholarship. We're based out of the Twin Cities, but serve schools all around and through different parts of the region, including Austin. in a small world, as I've told Lynn and some other folks, my wife has been on part of the team that's looking at Riverland and doing some of their construction updates. So both myself and my wife have spent time in Austin in the last year or two. So I'm excited to be here with you tonight and share a little bit about our opportunity that, as we'll see, is kind of, I think, a great one for y'all. So the Walla Education Partners scholarship is it's for four-year students who are interested in going to a four-year college. So it's great that folks in Austin have so many different opportunities to have portions of their college paid for. We offer a scholarship that is up to $16,000 over 4 years. So we typically distribute that money at about $4,000 per year, but knowing that some students pull in different financial aid or have different needs, we are much more interested in making sure that we apply that money in a way that helps students move through to graduation. About half of our staff operate as professional advisors. So one of the nice things about Walla is, in addition to the money, you're essentially going to get somebody who you can call. I sort of tell students, before you even graduate high school, you'll end up having an email and a phone number to somebody whose whole job it is just to help you progress through your four-year college degree. Along that time, you're also given lots of opportunities to college to career opportunities. So this can look like mentorship or internships or all kinds of things. We have a job fair. During the area of COVID, we've been doing virtual meetups and Fridays where we're bringing in different professionals to share about information. So you'll have access to that from day one as you head out towards the end of your career. The advisors, I do like to go back and talk about them with a little more depth. They're there to help you problem solve, but they're also there to help you find opportunities. So I know the advisors would be upset with me if I said their only job was to help students solve problems that happen while they're in college. They're also there to make sure you understand where you can go for research or internships or how to figure out a study abroad. Every year, they help students navigate their financial aid offerings and make sure they're only taking the financial aid that they need, all of which helps towards graduation on time and with less debt. Our scholars are 100% low income. We define that as for a family of five, it's your family can make about $75,000 per year. It's a little higher than the free and reduced lunch threshold. It's even a little higher than the Pell Grant threshold as well. So we're really looking for what I would call low and low middle income families. It happens that about 86% of our scholars are students of color and 76% are first generation, first in their family to go. At Walla, about 40% of our scholars graduate without any college debt at all. Again, a combination of our finances, smart decision making while they're in college, other additional funding, perhaps their college choices. But 90% of our scholars graduate. In addition, we'll see how this gets updated with COVID, to be honest, but in the last several years, 95% of our students have reported being employed or being in graduate school within 6 months of leaving college. So that for us will be coming up shortly, but we're in the middle of an alumni survey right now in which those numbers look to be holding in spite of COVID. So we are feeling pretty good about all of that at this point. So the question is always eligibility. So who can apply? So you need to be a 2021 graduate. For those of you, if you have any sophomores or juniors, just add a couple of years to that. We'll be around then too. And you do need to, for us, attend a partner high school, but good news for you, Austin is in fact a partner high school. So you've all already met one criteria. We do need a 3.0 unweighted GPA. So I know lots of scholarship programs look at things in all kinds of different ways, but we will take your flat unweighted GPA for eligibility. There's no ACT requirement at all this year. As I mentioned, you have to have some sort of financial need, which we define as a $75,000 adjusted gross income. You can find that on your tax forms, and within the next 2 weeks, we'll be putting out lots of documents from Walla about where specifically you can find that. If you are in a family that's larger than 5 people, we increase our eligibility. So if you have a larger family, it takes a little bit more to feed, clothe, house everybody, and so we make adjustments and allotments for that. We're also just noting for folks that if you've been impacted by COVID and have lost work or had reduced hours or lost compensation in some way, but your 2019 tax return has you over $75,000, we'll have a space for you to indicate that to us, and we'll work with that this year, recognizing that there might be some folks who are not usually eligible who will be eligible this year. And then lastly, you do have to attend a four-year college, and we do have a limited scope. So you do have to attend in Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, the Dakotas, or any HBCU. We do turn around our decisions in April, so you'll know well in advance of your need to inform a college about attendance, whether or not you'll have the $16,000 from Walla, and that can sort of help you make a decision about whether or not it might be a good fit. Sometimes students are awarded the scholarship, but then choose to leave that geographic zone, say go to Nebraska or Illinois or something like that, and they unfortunately cannot take the scholarship with them. But we'll work with you and let you know that well in advance. So for us, we'll open up on November 1st. So our scholarship isn't open yet. I'm sure we'll work with the Austin counseling team and the Career and College Center coordinators to get this out in your inboxes. And we'll close on February 1st this year. So that you have about 3 months to complete the application. The application itself is essentially two parts: an application done by the student and 2 recommendations from adults in the student's life. The app is really pretty basic. It's nothing you aren't already submitting for college. It's a little bit of information about you, your high school activities, what you've been involved in, including family responsibilities. We'll ask you to write 3 short essays this year and then upload some financial information for us. So all in all, those essays take the most time, but the rest of the application can be done in about 20 minutes. So it's not a particularly long application either. I know we're not open yet, but if you are an eager senior wanting to get text from us, you can go to wallandpartners.org, and under the 4-year program, you can sign up right now to get text when the application opens and nudges throughout it. If you have questions, you can come directly to me. If you're a sophomore or a junior, you can use that same link and get a text next year or the year after if you're interested in the application. So that's what I have tonight. Are there any questions for me?
All right, thank you, Kevin. And maybe we have questions and answers afterwards, so there might be some then. Our final presenter is Amy Mayers. She is our college and career readiness person. She's an excellent resource, so she can tell you a little bit about what she has to offer.
It took a bit to load. Sorry about that. All right, so like she said, I am Amy Mayers. This is my 2nd year in the College and Career Center. And you all get a lot of emails from me. And I won't apologize for it because I'm trying to help somebody's got their microphone on. We're trying to help the students succeed after high school. That is our goal, my goal. And these are, my office is limited to 20 people at a time. We used to be able to get a lot more in, but not now. There are 15 computers to help fill out FAFSA or to do searches for colleges and that kind of thing. All keyboards, mice, screens, desks, and chairs are disinfected after each use. I've gone through quite a few bottles of disinfecting spray already. You must wear a mask over your mouth and your nose at all times. You can pick up and drop off the volunteer logs. I also have them in the counseling page on the high school website. You can go there and get the volunteer log. If you use the Word document version, you can fill it out on your computer and then email it back to me without having to come in. That's helpful, especially for the distance kids. You can find volunteer opportunities. Of course, that's a lot of what I email to everyone. And you can go to Get Connected to find those. And just a heads up, our text services is going to be posting a volunteer opportunity for next Thursday and Friday to help them with a project in their office. And they need quite a few students. Also, I've had quite a few students tell me what they want to major in, and I will help them find choices in colleges. If they say that, many of the students say they want to be far enough away that mom and dad aren't in their face, but close enough to drive home. So a lot of the students go in Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota, Iowa, and Wisconsin. Those are the most common. I also, towards spring, local scholarships will be open and ready to be applied for, and I will have hard copies, or I can send a digital copy for you to print at home. Okay, now I have to figure out how to do the next one. There it is. Oops. How do I go back? Shoot.
Amy, you should just be able to press like your back, you know, the 4 arrows. You should.
Oh, there I see. Okay. Sorry. All right. So Caitlin has already spoken with you about the Austin Assurance Scholarship. I have, I'm able to show you how to apply for it. We will, of course, be going into classes to help all seniors apply. Let me say that if you are 100% sure you're going to go to a 4-year college, apply anyway, because it's good for 5 years. That means when you've graduated from college, you still have a year to take Riverland classes. Plus, as many of us adults know, as we go into college and go through the courses, we often change our minds about what we want to do. So you always have the Riverland Scholarship to fall back on. So I encourage every senior to apply for it. On the left-hand side, the monthly scholarship list. Every month I send out a list of the scholarships due that month and the following month. So the students and all the parents have already gotten the September, October, and the October, November. These are fluid, especially right now with what's going on. Deadlines have shifted, requirements have shifted some. So just because you got the October, November, check the November ones again next month, because sometimes changes are made in that short amount of time. And there are some really good scholarships in there. I always tell the students that my son's first roommate in college saved every penny he received as gifts from the time he was a child until he was a very young child, until he graduated from high school. He was able to buy a brand new car for cash. And then he applied for 218 scholarships and received 180. He didn't pay a dime for a prestigious school in New York. Okay, volunteer hours. This has been kind of a challenge. One of the problems that I find most often is that when students go into Get Connected, which is a United Way website that helps you keep track of volunteer hours, students will forget the password that they used when they signed up. Please, please, please do not use a personal email account, because we don't know what personal email account students have. You have to use your Austin High School email, or we will not find those hours. And from March, we gave a bit of a rest on the requiring the log sheet and the Get Connected. You had to be in Get Connected. We are back to, you've got to turn in a log sheet as well as entering it into Get Connected. Another issue that we find is students trying to do volunteer work for the company that they work for, whether it's a restaurant or a boutique or Amway or whatever. You can't volunteer for a position that should be paid. that's actually illegal. So we want to help the students get used to volunteering. At the end of their senior year, they can print out off of the Get Connected page, they can print out a resume of their volunteer hours and include it on every college application, every job application, and any volunteer position they want. It's very positive for people to see that you've volunteered so much. Plus, we'd like you to have it as a lifelong habit. So I'm open for questions. Students have come in and told me they want to major in engineering, but they don't know what kind. So we've had a long discussion about different kinds of engineering. If your student wants to do that, I'm open to helping them explore different careers and different majors to try and narrow things down. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Amy. So at this point in time, I think if there's any questions, we're free to entertain those right now. I don't know if the best way is to raise your hand or do the chat. I guess we can, are there any questions right now? I think we will make sure that we have the link to this presentation on our counseling website. We will have links to Patty and Darcy and Caitlin and Kevin and Amy as well. So if you have more personal questions or more individualized questions, you can contact them directly. In the past, we have sponsored FAFSA completion nights. However, with COVID, that's not something we're going to be able to do, but I know that Riverland is very, very gracious and helpful in assisting people with the FAFSA applications.
Julie, just to let everybody know, I think all of my financial aid staff, Darcy works most closely with the Austin group, but any of my financial aid staff are willing to set up Zoom appointments. So you can come in and we'll help you at the college, and we've got a setup there, or we will Zoom with you. So you don't have to come in. We screen share. Let us know if you want to do that. We'll set up an appointment. We'll send you a Zoom link, and then we screen share. Darcy and I have both done that multiple times with multiple Austin students.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much. Do we have any questions? Okay. Well, I thank everybody for taking time out of your evening to participate in our financial aid information session. We hope you have a great night, and please feel free to reach out to the contacts here as well as any of us in the counseling office. We're always eager to help and assist as best we can. So we hope you have a wonderful evening. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
I'm going to end the meeting now. Thank you.